Hi, this is Doug from Dynamic Computing, and welcome to episode 177 of 10-Minute Amiga Retrocast. Yes, it's been a hot minute since I've done an episode, but that's the way that life goes sometimes. It was a weird summer. What can I say? So, about a year and a half ago, I had this bug in my ear that I was going to do a series of episodes on using an Amiga as a daily driver as much as humanly possible, where I was going to use it for my day-to-day access to social media, which I am just disgustingly addicted to, my day-to-day word processing requirements, my day-to-day email requirements, things like that, as much as humanly possible, see if I could use the thing as a daily driver, printing, everything like that. Now, when it comes to my business, okay, I'm going to have to use my phone for my email in my business because, customer emails me at 1 in the afternoon. I'm not going to be able to come home and check it on the Amiga. So, but for my personal computer use and as much business use as possible, I want to use an Amiga as a daily driver. The computer I picked a year and a half ago, and it's probably actually 2 years ago now, was my Amiga 4000. Absolutely delightful machine. 68060, 128 megs of RAM on board on my 68060 card. You'll see a review of the BFG 9060 right up there. Fantastic card. And then 16 megabytes of onboard Amiga fast RAM, 2 megabytes of chip RAM. The little guy has a nice Picasso 2 video card in it, which I'm going to talk more about why I'm using the Picasso 2 in this one. It's got the new generation of A4091 SCSI card designed by a couple of our friends. There'll be a link to the video of that review right up here, and I'll have links to all of the hardware and the reviews I've done in the past in the description. It's going to be a lot of them because I've reviewed a lot of stuff in this Amiga. So, I took my Amiga 4000 and I took it down about maybe 4 months ago, three or 4 months ago, put it on the shelf, got out my Amiga 500, put it in its place, and haven't touched my Amiga 4000 since then, just busy. Hooked it up today in anticipation of making sure everything was working, and as you can see, it came right up. There's one of David Wright's nice pictures that he created for Amiga Art Contest a couple of years ago. And that was great. Optimized a few settings to get it to display properly on that monitor. Then thought, okay, let me check the AGA modes. Inside here, I've got the Indivision MK3, which I, of course, did another review on right there. None of the AGA modes would display. The way that the video card works, you know what? Let me show you the cool thing about it, and then we'll dig deeper into what's going on with displaying AGA graphics. Come along, let's pop this little guy open. All right, this is the Picasso 2 video card from Villagetronics. It is absolutely not the fastest retargetable graphics video card on the market. As a matter of fact, it's one of the slowest that actually can be used for retargetable graphics. It's okay, it's certainly faster than AGA, but it is pretty pokey compared to like the Picasso 3 or the Retina or the CyberGrafx, which I could be using in here. The reason that I like to use the Picasso 2 is because of these pass-throughs. Okay, I'm able to pass through the video that's coming out of my Indivision MK3, which of course is a Scandoubler. I'm able to pass that video through this little itsy bitsy VGA cable up to an input on the Picasso 2. Then the Picasso 2 outputs that directly to my VGA monitor. Now the cool thing is, because the MK3 is a Scandoubler and Flicker Fixer, it upscales the AGA video on here to 31.5 kilohertz, standard VGA. So it pumps that out through the Picasso 2. The Picasso 2 will display rock solid VGA just through its little pass-through from the MK3. That's the way it always has worked for me, and it's worked pretty darn good. But it ain't passing anything through right now, and AGA is simply not displaying anything. Now, if I went and I hooked up the RGB, I'm sure it would be fine. I'm sure I could display RGB, AGA just fine. I'm thinking something's going on with my MK3. Maybe it's not seated correctly, but we're going to test it out and we're going to see. Now, the way this MK3 Flicker Fixer works, if you have not watched my video, is it snaps down onto the Alice chip on the Amiga 4000. This is the little girl right here, and it's got this little doodad that snaps right down over the Alice chip, and it needs to make a pretty firm connection. And then once it makes that firm connection, this cable here passes through to either a VGA port or an HDMI port. You can swap between them. I happen to be using the VGA port because I want it to connect directly up to the nice little Picasso 2. So I'm concerned that she just unseated herself somehow, and I really, really, really hope that she did not get toasted, because that would be a bad thing. So I'm going to reseat this on top of the Alice chip, and we're going to give it another try. And it kind of pops into place, and you hear it click, and it definitely clicked into place. And let's see, the VGA cable is connected tightly. Should be okay. Let's plug her in, and if we're lucky, that's all it's going to take to bring her back into the world of the living. Let me get this thing booted back up. We're going to take a quick look. And while she's booting back up, of course, I've got the A4091 card in here, which is a beautiful recreation of the original Amiga A4091 card. I've got a fantastic Zulu SCSI on here, which I've also done a review on. That thing is a fantastic SCSI emulator with a nice 64 gig SD card. The original power supply failed, so I'm using this little micro ATX power supply. And I've got one of these adapters from our friends over at Amiga Kit, the A4000 adapter. Now, I've had some people tell me that they've used the wrong size wire on the A4000 power adapter, and it can cause it to overheat. I've had zero issues. I've been using it for about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. Things just absolutely worked flawlessly. One of these days, I am going to modify that power switch and find a way to hook it up to the actual Amiga 4000 power switch so I can switch it on from the front instead of having to reach around the side, but it's really not a big deal. Got a nice CD-ROM attached to the onboard IDE, and down there you'll see my BFG 9060, my nice little 68060 with 128 megs of RAM. All right, let's switch over and take a look and see if AGA is working now. The way I'm going to test it first is I'm just going to go into my screen mode, and I'm going to see I've got it at 800 by 600 at 16 bits per pixel, which is a fine mode for the Picasso 2. It kind of chokes if you go anything more powerful than that. I'm going to try and test it out in regular AGA, high-res interlaced in 256 colors. I'm going to test it out, and it should switch right over and display Workbench on a nice AGA screen, and I still get nothing. That makes me sad. That makes me very, very sad. Look right here in my startup sequence. See this C:IMD IMK3 reset? That's a special little program that you'll know about if you watch my video review of the MK3. What that does is that's on boot up, that sets a reset signal to your Indivision MK3 because some NTSC computers have an issue initializing the MK3, so that sends it a reset signal to initialize it, and then it reboots the machine, and then it works properly. I'm going to see if I run that manually, what happens? So let's just go ahead and go over to C here, and we're going to run Indivison MK3 reset. And absolutely nothing happened. That's telling me it's not seeing the Indivision card, which is going to make me weep 1,000 times. So now we've gone and we've taken out the A4091 card, and we've taken out the Picasso 2 card. All I have in here is my my Xsurf 100 and my Rapid Road USB. We'll just leave that in there. I'm going to make sure this is properly and firmly seated on Alice. When I boot it up, it should in theory come up to the Kickstart logo. And we'll see if it does. And the drive is clicking like it's asking for a disk, and I am getting 0 video. Let me see if I feel any heat. You know, I'm not feeling any warmth on this Indivision MK3. Jeez, I really hope that this little thing didn't die. Because as you know, if you try and warranty these things, which mine is probably already out of warranty, but no matter what on earth, it's always your fault and never the fault of the hardware. That's just the way it is working with individual computers. Fantastic parts, fantastic cool stuff, absolutely horrible warranty service. So the good news is some progress was made here. There's a special recovery floppy that you can create for your MK3 device that allows you to boot from floppy, and it automatically reflashes the firmware. Well, I did that once, and the display came up for the MK3, flashed the firmware, fantastic. So I rebooted again, and then I got to the black screen again. But the good news is I was able to see a display through the MK3, so it might be okay. The Amiga is certainly fine because it's booting from the floppy. I just don't get any display. So I'm going to go and thoroughly clean all the contacts on the Lisa chip. I accidentally said Alice chip earlier, but it is the Lisa chip. And I'm going to clean all the contacts of the MK3. We're going to reseat that little sucker again and see if we can make it work reliably. Follow me. Well, I'd like to clean it with a little bit of the electronics contact cleaner, but I don't have it here. It's over at my other house. So I'm going to do a nice little good job with isopropyl alcohol. I'm just going to scrub all the contacts on the old Lisa chip, and I'll scrub all the contacts on the actual MK3. And we're going to see if that's enough to make good contact and get this thing working reliably again so I can move on with my project. Well, I'm a happy boy. If you look at the screen behind me, that's going through the MK3. Let me tell you what's going on. I told you I cleaned it, but I found some crud. When I zoomed in using my phone, I found what looked like some crud on the Lisa chip, and I'm going to show a picture of it right here. And you can see that white stuff. So, grabbed my wife's toothbrush, don't tell her, and went to work, cleaned the Lisa chip up, rebooted again using the recovery floppy I told you about, and it did allow me to boot up into this mode right here, this flash recovery mode. So I ran the flash recovery, it resets the MK3 to the factory defaults, rebooted, and it went to the kickstart screen just fine, okay? Powered it off and powered it back on, black screen, nothing. I think, oh, what's going on here? So I rebooted again from the recovery floppy, and I'll put a link in the description on where to get that, and it booted up okay, and I recovered the flash again, and then I'm sitting here talking to my buddy Kevin Quattro, you know, from Hold and Modify, and we're discussing what's going on with the MK3 because he has one for his Amiga 4000, and he's had his own issues with it. So Kevin and I are chatting about it, and I said, you know, there's that utility, that little reset utility, and I mentioned it earlier in the video, that reinitializes the MK3 on NTSC machines. Maybe what's going on right now after I cleaned it and got it working is it works fine as long as I boot from the floppy. It initializes fine. As soon as I power down, power back up, it never gets that initialization signal that it needs from that file. So I put my A4091 back in there, boot it up again. Like a charm, it works. Boots right up. So if you're an NTSC user and you're having issues, use that reset tool that I told you about. And again, I'll put a link in the description. And if the darn thing stops working, clean your Lisa chip, get it sparkly clean, use the reset tool, but don't forget you're going to have to reboot with your original hard drive again that has that reset tool built into it, or you may just end up with a black screen like me. Let's get back into Workbench and take a look. So looky here, we're back at a nice 800 by 600, 256 color screen. And again, if you watch my original video on the Indivision, you'll learn that you can use these awesome screen modes with the Indivision MK3s, like 800 by 600, 1024 by 768, 1280 by 720, and even 1280 by 1024, all in 256 color or ham 8 modes, which is absolutely gorgeous. Now, the performance is fine. I mean, it's AGA and it's 256 color, 800 by 600, so it's not as fast as RTG, but it's acceptable. But look at this, 1.5 megabytes of chip RAM available. Again, 800 by 600, 256 color with a beautiful Workbench picture as the background. Now, how does that work? Well, that's because I use this tool, Devs, and then Monitors. And let me unhide this little guy here. This file called Native, okay? You download Native from AmiNet. This is a monitor driver that works with Picasso 96, even if you do not have an RTG card. What Native does is this forces things that would normally go into chip memory, like these background graphics, like some of the icons and the graphics and things like that. It forces them to use fast memory instead of chip memory, which can absolutely save you an absolute ton of chip memory. If I was not using the Native driver here, which you can use, just get Picasso 96 and download the Native driver, links in the description, this would probably be about 700 or 800 kilobytes of chip memory free instead of 1.5 megabytes. Absolutely worth it. Now that we have our fancy pants Indivision MK3 working again, whew, and thank you, Kevin, for your emotional support. You were a big help, my friend. Now that we have that working, let's get the Picasso 2 put back in here. Here's that pretty little card right here. And there's the pass-through. Let's get the Picasso 2 put back in, get our retargetable graphics modes, and talk just for a few minutes more about my plans for using this as my daily driver. Let's throw it in. Alrighty, we've got the Picasso 2 card back in the machine. This is still in AGA mode, which is exactly where I want it. Let's make sure our Picasso 2 card works. First of all, take a look at the speed of AGA moving a window and how slow it redraws. Now, if I reduce this down to 64 colors, it would certainly work much better. But let's go ahead and see if we can go back into our retargetable graphics modes. We're going to go down here to screen mode, and let's go from Super 72 to Picasso 800 by 600, 16 bits per pixel. I'm going to click test, and we hear a very satisfying click as the relays in the Picasso 2 switch between the pass-through and the Picasso 2 retargetable graphics. You see they come up just fine. So now we're going to go ahead and save that. And it'll reset the Workbench, and it'll come up much zippier and faster. You can already see how much faster the retargetable graphics is. Now, We're in 800 by 600 and 65,000 colors. Now you can very obviously see how much faster this is than AGA in 256 colors, dramatically faster. And you'll also notice that we're up to 2 full megabytes of chip RAM because all of the graphics are now being handled by retargetable graphics instead of having to go through chip RAM. That's a plus. We can switch at our leisure between modes now. So let's say we launch a program that a couple of you may have heard of before. Let's see what we got here. It's this program called Deluxe Paint. You might have heard of it. Let's go ahead and tell this to go to a very traditional mode like NTSC 640 by 480 ham 8. I don't have to switch inputs. I can just go directly into the AGA screen mode I want to, and it's going to work absolutely perfectly. Look at that work of art. Look at that. I just need to sell this. How much are you guys willing to pay for this absolutely beautiful work of Amiga art? That's gorgeous. And when you exit out of here, it'll automatically switch back to the retargetable graphics mode, again, without having to hit a switch box or anything like that to go between the two. That's why I like the Picasso 2. So we're back in the world of the living. Let's talk for a few minutes about what my intentions are for using this as my daily driver. So for using the Amiga 4000 as a daily driver, there's a couple things I'm going to need access to. Word processing, which is going to be super easy with something like Final Writer 97. And here we're going to launch Final Writer 97 in 800 by 600 24-bit mode. Now the cool thing about this is that it can also save files in rich text format, which Microsoft Word and LibreOffice can open up just like a dream on the PC. No problem at all. So I can create the documents, save them as RTF files, and then if I need to bring them over to the PC, no problem at all. I can just bring them right over to the PC, do what I want with them. We're going to want to do something with spreadsheets, of course, because everybody loves a good spreadsheet. And TurboCalc is a nice one. And right now, TurboCalc is opening up in 800 by 600 and 65,000 color mode, which is pretty darn sweet. You got lots of your columns and lots of your rows. I could even run this in 1024 by 768 in 256 color mode or fewer, and it'd look absolutely gorgeous in retargetable graphics. And what I'll be doing with that is experimenting with taking some of my spreadsheets that I use, day-to-day spreadsheets, my quote templates and things like that, and try to bring them over into TurboCalc and actually use a modern spreadsheet in TurboCalc. Now, I don't think it'll be a huge problem because a lot of the spreadsheets I use, I've literally been using since like 1993 and 1994, and in old versions of Lotus and then versions of Excel, and I've just brought them with me and updated them over the years. So I think it'll be okay. I think it'll work just fine with TurboCalc. Of course, you know, we would be completely useless if we were unable to get on the old interwebs. And when I have my nice little Xsurf 100 in here, you can get on the web just beautifully. And with a retargetable graphics card, I'm at 800 by 600 and 65,000 colors, and gives you access with iBrowse 3.0 to a reasonable part of the internet. Not the entire internet. There are things it's not going to run, but a reasonable amount of websites work reasonably well. Like I'll be able to use this for Facebook. Maybe I'll be able to use it for some other online social media type things. I'm going to experiment it and find the best way to use these online social media. Used to have a Twitter client for the Amiga, which actually worked pretty well, but our good friend Elon decided he was going to go space Karen on us and screw up the API, so I don't believe that works any longer. But I'll see what I can do. I don't think I'm going to be able to use Threads. I don't think I'm going to be able to use Blue Sky. I just don't think their web interfaces are going to work properly on the Amiga, but I'm going to try, and I'm going to report to you what I discover. There are some other ways to browse the web on the Amiga besides iBrowse. There's the utility that our friends created that actually serve the pages on their file servers and then just dump a graphic image of it back to your machine. And we'll play around with that, and I'll go into full details about that. But that has some pretty serious limitations, like they strongly recommend you don't log into a personal service and do it that way because you're logging into their servers. And so logging into your Gmail or logging into your Amazon may not be the safest thing to do with that. But we'll play around with it and see just how useful it is. Now the Amiga, as I've covered in a couple of my other videos, it is possible to generate things like PDF files on the Amiga, and I'll be able to use those if I have files that I want to eventually bring back to my PC and print, like something I do in a publishing program or something like that. You can convert them into PDF files. There's ways to do it and bring them over to the PC that way. Another important thing that we're going to be covering in this little mini series is printing on the Amiga. Now I've set up printing on both black and white and color laser printers on my Amiga, both through the parallel port and through the network, which actually works pretty cool. And I got that show almost ready to go, and then I never published the show. So I'm going to be going back and bringing over one of my nicer laser printers, maybe two of them, and we're going to go over all the printing capabilities of the Amiga. And it does a pretty good job, especially in black and white and grayscale. In color, it's not quite as good because the drivers just don't exist. But in black and white, you can get some phenomenal things. And the other cool thing is you can take images that you create on the Amiga in full color, bring them over to the PC, print them there, no problem at all. Now, I would be interested in hearing your opinions about the other types of daily driver things you want me to cover in this mini-series. So just let me know in the comments below or reach out to me on any of my social medias and let me know what kind of things you'd like me to test and see if we can do on the Amiga. One of the cool things is the network sharing capabilities. Now that we have the SMB2 and SMB3 drivers for the Amiga, we can share a file on a flippin' Windows 11 machine or whatever, or on a NAS box, a network attached storage, and we can just connect to it from the Amiga. Boom, there's a network drive right there. I do it all the time. Makes it so simple to transfer files back and forth from the Amiga back to your PC and vice versa. And considering every Amiga known to humankind can easily and inexpensively be networked with anything from a little $35 plit box to a $125 Xsurf card, and then there's a couple of variations in between. There's no excuse not to get your Amigas on the network and start transferring data back and forth. So we'll cover that too. But let me know what you'd like to see in the Daily Driver series. Probably there's going to be 3 or 4 episodes in addition to this one. Huge thanks to my patrons who you see scrolling over this lovely image right here on your screen. If you'd like to join in the fun and help support this channel and keep it going, because yes, we're keeping the channel going, we just have a couple little interruptions now and again when daily life gets in the way, pop on over to patreon.com/10mark for more information about how you can help the show. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining me today. I am so glad we got this little issue figured out with my MK3. I really thought we'd lost that little guy, but cleaning it up and running the utility to reflash it seems to have brought it back to life, and she's just happy as a clam now. And I hope you enjoy the little mini-series that I'm going to be working on about the Amiga 4000 as a daily driver. And please follow me on all the social medias, Threads, Blue Sky, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of those. All the links are right in the description. But until next time, this is Doug from 10 Minute Amiga Retrocast, signing out.